guys, well, we're back with another episode 5 of the series that we're calling Hiring and Retaining Your DJ Staff. And once again, I've got Chris Romero from Cutmaster Music out in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hey, Chris, how you doing, bud?
Going, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, we're going to dive a little deeper now. We've kind of been on the outside looking in as far as getting people in. Now we've got them here. We're ready to get into the interview. And in this episode, we're going to be looking at specific interview questions to ask. So maybe, I'm sure you've got a sheet full of them, as do I. So maybe we can just talk. Yeah. So maybe we can just talk through like our initial couple of questions that we go with, or the ones that have been the most usable for you that you walk away and you go, man, that was a good one to keep in the fold and to ask next time if you've got a few of them like that. So I'll let you start.
Yeah. So I kind of divide my interview questions into two different areas. I think we've got the corporate-y side of things, which are tell us your strengths and weaknesses, that sort of thing. And then I like to get more so into conversational pieces, though, based around the industry. I might ask a question like, tell me about the last DJ you saw perform. What did you like? What did you dislike? And I just like to try to find little tidbits. I'm trying to get more into their personality and, characteristics, who their internal makeup is and that sort of things. And of course, then I've got other questions around DJing, like technical things. Do you have your own gear and equipment? What do you like using? I like most of our guys here use Serato, but if they're using other platforms or they're on other things, I like to just know, like, how did you get into it, or why did you decide to use that and that sort of thing. I just think it's fun to talk shop sometimes. And I feel like I can get a pretty good grasp of who they are as a DJ, as a person, hopefully with a lot of these different interview questions. I know I think you've got a little bit different method that you use.
Yeah. So we have 3 pieces to this. One, we have them first fill out an application when they get there. And this application is, your typical application stuff, like give me your driver's license, date of birth, address, all that kind of stuff. But then we do have some specific, what we feel is applicable questions to the DJ world. One is we want to know what social platforms they're on. So if we haven't already stalked them before, we will. Usually we do that before we even bring them in, but we want to know which ones they're most active on, so that way we're seeing what kind of social awareness they have in the social media world. And then also in that application, there's a couple other questions, like just to see if they're in on music, like what's the number 1 song on Billboard, what genres do you like, those kinds of things, just to get an idea, because we're such a musically inclined company that those pieces, the more that we think that they know ahead of time, that just is going to propel them even further once we get into the training aspect of things. So that's the first thing we have them do. That takes about probably 5-10 minutes tops. Then the next part is another question, another set of questions, which we're doing personality tests now. There's been this huge buzzword of Enneagram, which is kind of like a personality test, similar to like Myers-Briggs, or I think even, was it Vicky Musny in our industry does one.
Done the colors.
Yeah. So something along those lines. I think any one of those is good. But the thing I like about the Enneagram thing is that it's only like 25 questions. The results come immediately, and we can know what kind of personality type they are. It also tells you if they're healthy within that personality type. And this is like a free questionnaire you can get on their website, which is Enneagram Institute, I think, .com. And that's the second piece of the interview process. And that just gives us an idea of how do they fit in with the personalities that are already on our team through that method. And then lastly, we hit on our core values. And that's where we spend the most of it. I don't really get into like past experiences of their job unless it relates to these questions and the core values, because I've already kind of got a good idea based on their resume if they've got that provided to us. So the questions let me back up. The core values of ours are humility, hunger, and people smarts, which is just like how you interact with people. And so 3 questions, if I could give ones that we use that have been the best for us to determine those things. In the humility area, we ask them, tell us about one of the most important accomplishments of your career. And what I'm looking for there in the humility is more mentions of we than I? Like, how did they accomplish this? And if I see that it's very selfish driven, then that's kind of a little bit of a warning sign.
Right, flag.
Yeah. Another one would be like, what was the most embarrassing moment in your career or your biggest failure? And in this question, I'm looking whether they celebrate the embarrassment or if they're just like mortified by it, you know? Again, that kind of gives me a little bit of insight into how they deal with humility there. And then lastly, along the same lines with that question, I'll say, how did you handle it? And what I'm trying to get there is, how did they accept responsibility? What did they learn from it? And how they, acted on what they learned through that process. And just to see, again, are they taking responsibility for this? And that just helps us with the humility aspect. Hunger, we have a bunch of questions, but one of them that I thought is our best one is, what is the hardest you've ever worked on something in your life? And what I'm looking for there, hunger, is if there's any sign of sacrifice. Hunger to me means they're going to go after it. They're so hungry for it. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, they're going to work their tail off. And so have they met, is the person grateful for the experience, or are they complaining about because they had to work so hard for it? So just to get an idea, because our training's intense. So, 16 weeks, if they like, gosh, this took forever, I never want to have to go through that again, then again, another flag for us, right? And then with people smarts, two questions that seem to work well is like, what do you do that others in your personal life find annoying? Again, that kind of ties in a little bit to humility to see how willing they are to share that part of their life. And what kind of people annoy you the most, and how do you deal with them? And again, I'm looking for self-awareness and self-control through those questions. And those are just like a couple of the top ones. Of course, we drill down from there even deeper if we feel like something's not really hitting us right, or we're not feeling like we've got a good sense of where they stand in those three areas. We don't even tell them that those are our core values yet. So they don't know that we're asking for those reasons. We're just asking those for ourselves, basically. What, if you could give any of the people watching this, like one or two questions that you feel, maybe even three if you want, that are like your best questions that you feel address maybe the core values? Because I know you said that you also dive into that at some point in the interview. What are some of those questions for you guys?
We do, yeah. So, I mean, I think anybody that is giving interview questions or putting something together, you should really have a set of core values that you base yours around. We've got 7 on ours, and at the very end of the interview, I'll just do a very brief gut check on each of the core values for us. We've got 7 different ones. I won't go through all those again here, but I'm doing the same thing in building our questions based around those as well. One of them for me, which I didn't I added this question later on because it actually became an issue after I had hired someone on and I didn't know, was, can you work with other races, ethnicities, and lifestyles?
Wow.
Yeah, and so that was one that I didn't realize once I had onboarded this guy, that he had issues with the, some of the different lifestyles out there. And so we are inclusive of everybody in our group, and we played at LGBT weddings, all that stuff. And so I actually had to release that guy like very quickly soon after. I just realized there was some crazy stuff there. So that actually became a super important question for me. Let's see what else. Gosh, you hit a lot of the same questions, or at least same types that we do as well. So try not to repeat anything. How did you get into DJing? What got you to the point where you decided you wanted to get your own gear? So I'm trying to find out, are they in this just for a quick buck? Do they really want to be in this to grow and expand? So one of our core values is the ability to learn and grow. And want to grow. And so that's a question that hits that for me. Like, are they in this just to, like, do they own their own gear? Have they taken that extra step? Do they even want to own their own gear? Or, are they in this just to kind of, do something quick hitter on a Saturday, make a little extra money? So we're looking for guys and people that want to take it the extra step and want to grow and like looking to learn and just be more than just music, than just a play pusher, right? So.
Right. That's awesome. Well, hopefully those questions help you guys out. It kind of segues perfectly into our next episode, which is things to look for within the interview, and also second interview setups. If you guys do that kind of thing, at least we do that, and I think it'll be some things that we can hit on the next episode. So thanks for checking us out today. Get ready for the next piece coming up here shortly.